Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is the next video in the live conversation series. This video is a bit different. In this video here I am helping a Uipath aspirant to understand an academy assignment. So I was being approached by an Uipath aspirant who was struggling to understand the assignment which was given in one of the practical examination in the Uipath Academy. So this video is a call recording, a kind of video recording between me and the guy, and we are trying to understand where exactly he's stuck and how can we understand that assignment. So in this video we are trying to build the assignment by ourselves, and at the end of the video we are trying to understand the solution which is provided by Uipath Academy, and all of this we are doing by a step-by-step manner. So in case you are a beginner and you also want to understand some of the academy assignment, you can just refer to this video and it will help you definitely. And also, if you also want to have such conversation, you can always drop me a note on the email ID which is mentioned in the comments. Having said that, let's get started. Yes, I can see your screen. Yes, tell me.
So there are three cases in that practice exercise
Okay.
where the requirement is we have to add the columns that are given in the Excel and
Mhm.
print it in the column C. There are values in column A and column B.
Okay.
We have to add those two and print it in column C.
Okay. Can you show me the Excel ones, please? The sample columns one. Then we will see. Let us go by step. Okay.
Okay. Can you
Yes.
see
Now.
now?
Yes. Now I can see the Excel. Yeah. Okay. So this is the Excel. Excel is
Yeah.
having sheet one and it is having no headers. And what we want to do, we want to print the sum in the cell C. So if I just tell you,
Yeah.
so it would be something like 159 plus 36, whatever is there. We want to just print it in the column C. Okay,
Yes.
fine. Okay,
So there
okay
are
now.
three cases given for those summation.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so can you please explain those three syntaxes?
Okay, why don't we build it by ourselves only? Why should we,
Yeah.
okay, just go to your Apache Studio. So just go to the solution which you are working on. Okay, let's try to do it ourselves. And then if we are not, if we are stuck, let then refer to that. Okay. So
Okay.
now just go to your Apache Studio once. Sorry,
Open.
Excel. Go to your Excel. Go to your Excel. Okay.
Okay.
Now if I ask you a simple question, what is 159 plus 36? It would be something, I guess, 200
Yeah.
something, right?
One.
Where
Yeah.
should
93.
right? So where should the bot write it? What is the cell number?
Cell number is C1.
C1, right? For the next,
Yeah.
it should write in C2, right? So for the
Yes.
next, it should write in C3. So if you will see, the column C is constant. The only thing changing is the 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So
Yeah.
see, doing
Yeah.
sum is very easy. The only logic is how we will write the answer in that particular cell, right?
Yes.
Right, because 1, 2, 3, 4 is in a incrementing order, so the first result will go in C1, then C2, then C3, and accordingly, right? So what
Yes.
we do, open a notepad, we will just write the steps. Okay, what we are trying to do, open a notepad file for me. Okay, so just open it. So we will just try to write. So first we will read the Excel. Okay, right, step one would be reading the Excel, right? Then when we read the Excel, we will get a data table, correct? Just right in front of
Yeah.
it, a data table, right? Then we would have to iterate the data table, right? So the next step
Yeah.
would be, we have to iterate the data table to get each and every element, right? So
Okay. Okay.
when we iterate the data table, so for the first row, I would have the A1 and the B1, correct? And for the
Yeah.
so what I have to do, I have to store that number somewhere. So I should have a counter variable somewhere, so that maintains a
Okay.
count. So just write uh, counter variable. Okay, then
Okay.
once the counter variable is available, what we have to do, we have to sum, right? So then enter, write sum. Okay, so once we write the sum, once the sum is available and is written, we want to increment the counter. So why do we want to increment? Because first we are doing for A1, the next time it would be
Mhm.
A2 plus B2, right? So what we have
Yeah.
to do, we have
Yeah.
to increment the counter by 1.
Okay.
Okay, just right there, increment the counter by 1. Okay, and where exactly we have to write the sum, we have to write the sum, before incrementing. So this is the
Mhm.
main logic. So if you will write, if you will increment first and then you write, it will write in C2. So first we have
Yeah.
to write the sum and then we have to increment.
Okay.
Okay. So this is the
Okay.
logic. This is the logic. Now
Yeah.
let's do this logic in UiPath Studio. Okay. Go to UiPath Studio.
Oh,
Let me know if I'm going fast. Okay. Sometime I have a habit of going a bit fast. So okay. So you are correct. So first we are in the Excel application scope. We have pointed it to the Excel. Next we are reading the read range and it is in sheet 1.
okay.
Now go to the properties of read range. So we don't have headers, right? So
Yes.
headers is removed because we don't have headers. Now what will happen is UiPath will add a header itself, right? Okay.
Okay.
Now you have you are iterating. So the our third step in the notepad was to iterate the data. So for that we have
Yeah.
used the for each row. Scroll down.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Now what is happening here? Just go hover over it. What is it? What exactly it is doing? Row index. Can you hover over the row index?
Okay.
It says income index. Okay, so this is what UiPath logic is given, right? Why don't we write our own
Mhm.
logic? So I will just ask you to give me control. Okay.
How to enable it?
No, no,
Output.
approve it. Okay, I
Okay.
have the control now. Okay, now
Okay.
this is what UiPath logic is, right? So what we will do is we will try to write our own logic that we understand. So definitely
Okay.
there are different approaches, right? But let's do what we understand.
Okay.
Okay, so let me just remove this guy from here. I will remove this guy also, this guy also. Okay, and let's remove this also, and let's remove this also. Okay, now so now if for each row, so what is our number? So our number in the first row, whenever we are getting this in
Mhm.
the data table, so the data table will
Mhm.
have these two numbers, 159 plus 36, right? So
30.
we
Yeah.
would have a data row, right? So the data row
Okay.
would have 159 and then 36,
30.
right? So this
Yes.
would be my row of 0, right? Because this
Mm-hmm.
is my row of 0. And so how does
Mm-hmm.
data stored in a data table? So this is a row, right? So the first row
Mm-hmm.
is row 0. Okay, the
Okay.
next row is row of 1, and like that
Okay.
way it goes on, and this would be the column 0 column 1, because in data table the index start from 0. Okay, so
Okay.
now
Okay.
when you have this row here, right? So let us first, every time when you write a logic, right, first you should understand what exactly are you getting in this row, right? So let me put a
Mm.
debugger here. Okay, I'll go to debug. I will put a debugger here. Okay, we will close
Okay.
this Excel because UiPath is needed, so we would need to close this. Okay, now see, whenever you are not getting any syntax, right, the easiest way is to do the debug like this. Now go here and debug the file. Now let us see, right, what exactly we are getting in this row. So I am
Okay.
just running in debug mode. Okay, and now it will hit this debugger. Okay, now if I go to the locals, right, this local, so this
Mm-hmm.
is my input Excel. So the
Okay.
column names are column 0 and column 1. This guy,
Okay.
column 0, column 1. So every data is coming in column 0 and column 1. This is good. Now we have iterating each and
Mm-hmm.
every row. So what we are getting inside the row? So this is my row, data row, right? So if you will just click here, you will see we are getting row like this. So there are two items in each row, right? So this is good, 159 and 36. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So the first element is available in the first place and the second element is available in the second place. Okay. Now
Okay.
let us try to get the both the numbers in two variables. So we can do everything in a single statement also, but it is always good to write simple code so that it is easy to understand. Okay,
Okay.
so I will create two variables. I will say integer variable, I will say int underscore first number.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I will create a second variable called, okay, sorry, my bad. So the I have caps on in my machine. So the naming convention we
Mm-hmm.
have to follow always is, if we are creating an integer variable, it should be int, and if you are
Mm-hmm.
creating a string variable, you should type str. This is the recommended practice. Okay, so always follow that one.
Okay.
Whenever you are writing a big automation, that will help you. So I will
Mm.
create variable called first number. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I will create a variable called second number also. Control plus K is the shortcut to create the variable. So I will write here integer underscore second number. Simple. Okay. So now the
Okay.
next thing is where exactly is the first number. So the first number is in this row, and we have seen this row is
Mm-hmm.
having only two elements, right? So we will write row. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the row, right? And where exactly, if you just read, what does this say? Column. So it requires, see, do you understand? Do you know how to read this thing, or you want me to tell you?
No, I'm not clear with that. Please
Okay, so
explain
so
me.
so what do you think? So it is asking me that, okay, you are specifying the row. What do you want to, which value you want? So it expects a column name as dot data column.
Mm-hmm.
So you will see there are
Mm-hmm.
six overloaded methods. So what value I can provide here? See, you can provide here. Okay, I will just do it like this. So here, when you do it like this, right? So you can provide here
Mm-hmm.
the column name. You can
Okay.
provide here the column name. Okay, you can provide the column index. Okay,
Okay.
you can provide
Mm.
the entire data column name. So these are all the variants, but if I we only require the first two, it says you can
Mm-hmm.
always so this guy is saying that, okay, from the row, what do you want to extract? So you have to provide me the column name, which would be in form of string. Okay,
Okay.
and else would you have to provide, you have to provide me a column index, right? So we have seen when we running in
Mm-hmm.
the debug mode that these
Mm-hmm.
two data was coming in the form of column 0. So this was column 0 and this was column 1,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there is no
Okay.
header. Else if I talk about index, so this index would be 0. Do you
Okay.
understand this? So this index
Yeah.
would be 0 and this index would be 1. 1. So we can do either ways. So this index would be 1 and this index would be 0. So now if
Mm-hmm.
I am providing the index, I would have to use the directly the index like this,
Okay.
row of 0. Okay, and
Mm.
if I am using the column name, then I have to specify in the double quotes the column name. So that would be column 0. Any which ways you comfortable with, right? So let's go by the
Okay.
index one. So because we have
Mm.
seen we have only two items, so row of which is the column, which is the element, a column index. So column index is 0, right?
Zero.
And
Mm-hmm.
0, and then we are trying to store this thing in an integer variable, right? So if you go to the variables, so by default it would have created, so this we have created extra. I will just remove it.
Mm-hmm.
So int first number we want to have in the form of integer, right? Int 32, and the second number also we will change it to integer 32. Okay,
Okay.
now what we are telling UiPath that you give me the row of 0. So now if you will read the error, it says that I cannot convert this thing to integer because I don't know this variable. This can be anything, right?
Okay.
This can be Ganesh, this can be Mukesh, this can be anything. So what we will do
Yes.
is we will just convert this thing to integer. So we will tell UiPath, okay, whatever value you are getting from the Excel, you have to just convert it to integer 32.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we
Okay.
convert? We just write convert dot to int 32 like this. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and then what we are telling UiPath, whatever value you get in row of 0, you just assign it to that variable. So now UiPath
Okay.
will say, okay, I am good, I can just assign it. Now similarly for the second number, now tell me what should I write here in the row of here, what should I
Row
write?
of one.
Exactly correct.
Row
So
of
row
column
of 1
index having one.
having 1, right? So now you understand. So now I
Yes.
write here row of 1. So now what would happen if now I have two integer variables? So the first one is the first number, second number. So now in these two values are now available in the variables. So the next was
Mm-hmm.
to just sum it, right? So how do I sum? To sum, I will just take an assign activity, one more assign activity. Okay, I will create a variable called control k int underscore sum. And how do I sum? I have to just add the two numbers, right? So I will just write here int first num plus int
Awesome.
second num, right? You're getting?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so now this sum would be again a type of string. So what we have to do, we have to just convert this thing to a integer variable, right? So we will
Okay.
just go ahead and convert it to integer because the integer plus integer will always give you an integer, right? So
Okay.
now I have the sum, I have everything. So now if it is iterating the first time, the first number would be 159, this. Now what I have to do? I have to write this again to the Excel, right? So how do we write value to the Excel? What property we can use? So we can use a property
Right
called
mail.
write cell, write cell. So
Right
write
cell.
Write range is to write the entire data table. So if you are having a data which is having rows and columns, we use write range. But if you want to specify write exactly in a cell, so as of now our requirement
Mhm.
is to write in a cell, right? So we
Mhm.
are going to use the write cell. Okay, now we will see there are two write cell, one is the Excel and one is the workbook, right? So
Okay.
since we are already using the Excel application scope at the top, we would go by this write cell.
Okay.
Okay, okay, so I will just drag and drop it here. So where I will drag and drop, I will just drag and drop the right cell uh, after this, right? Now, if you will see, the properties are straightforward. Which sheet you want to root? The sheet is sheet one. Okay. So what is the
Yeah.
value we want? What do you think? What should we write in the cell? We should write
In sum.
sum, right? So we will just type here int and sum, right? So now
Okay.
if you will
Mhm.
see, it is every time it is going, and now if you will see, this says that I cannot convert this string to string because it does not understand. So what we have to do, we have to just put to string here, because the Excel cell expects a string variable. Okay, so now it is done. Now we will see every time it is going to write in the A1. But now if I, as a human, if I ask you where should exactly this, it should write it. It should write in the
C1.
cell C1, right? So what I will do is, so first time it would be C1. Okay, let's try to understand the logic. For first time it would be C1, next time it would be C2, the next time it would be C3, right? So if you will see,
Yeah.
C is constant, right? So we will do
Yeah.
is we will change this guy here. We will say, okay, we don't want to write it A1, we just want to write in the cell C. Okay, now how do I get one?
Okay.
So first time it is one, right? So I will go in the variables. Okay, now I will create a
Mhm.
variable called counter. Okay, so that counter will keep increasing. So I will create a variable called counter. Okay, so counter would be a type of integer variable, because 1 2 3 4, see every time what is changing here, every time this guy is changing 1 2 3, right?
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
will go here, we will tell UiPath, okay, you go ahead and create an integer counter variable, and it would be of type integer, and the default
Mhm.
value would be 1.
1.
Okay, so now the counter value is 1. So now if I go
Okay.
here and if I write write cell C plus, what I
Okay.
will take, int of counter, right? So this is int of counter dot to string. Okay, so now what I have done here, so let's go and try to revisit. I go to properties. Mm, this guy property, so actually something we have did as syntax error here. So okay, there are two errors.
Twice
So
is
twice
20.
I have written the int, right? So what we are trying to do here, so when the bot is running for the first time, it will just go type C, then it will type int
Okay.
string, that is 1, so it will get the value of C1, right? So whatever the
Yeah.
sum we are getting, it will store in which cell? C1, right?
C1.
Now what we want to do, as now we want to have, when this loop is completed, the sum is written in the cell. Now we want to increment the counter, right? So how can
Yes.
I
Yes.
increment? I can simply use an assign activity. Okay,
Mhm.
and now what I have to do is I have to just increment that counter. Which counter? The increment counter.
In folder. Yeah.
So now the increment counter would be whatever increment counter is already existing. So in, as of now it
Mhm.
is 1, and we just want to increment it by 1. Sorry, I have just put exclamation here.
1.
So
Okay.
1. So now the increment counter value would be 2. Okay, now when
Okay.
it, now when the loop is coming next time for the next value, now the increment counter would be 2. Now this is an important thing, right? If you will see the
Mhm.
scope of this variable, okay,
Mhm.
the scope of this variable is till body. Okay, so we have to
Okay.
increase the scope to the greater sequence. Why? Because first
Okay.
time it will run. Okay, next time if it is again coming here, okay, so and it
Mhm.
will come to the body, and it will
Mhm.
again take the value from here only. It will again get the value of 1. So that's why what I did, I just increase the scope of the variable, so it is able to
Okay.
store the value globally. Okay, let's try to
Okay.
debug,
Okay.
and we will debug and see if it is running fine. Or I have put a debugger here. Let's put a debugger here somewhere. I will just remove this. So you see, if it is always good, whenever you are developing, just put debuggers and try to see how exactly the bot is working. That way we would be able to mitigate and the errors. So let me just go here and debug the file. Okay, so now what should happen, let's see. Okay, it is executing, and how I can see, I have to just go to this locals. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
now the integer first num, these are the two variables I worry about, right? So first num is having 159, this is having
Yeah.
36, and the sum is having 0, right? Because we have not
Yeah.
still executed that one. So I will go into step into. Now the sum will be set to 195. This is correct. Now it has to write the value somewhere, right? So it is writing c
Mm-hmm.
plus this int variable. And what is that int variable? It would be somewhere int counter. So the counter is now, so if you'll see, the counter is here. I will just minimize this. See, the counter is 1. So
120.
that means it will
Yeah.
write the value in which cell? C1. Okay, let's try.
Yes.
And what it will write? The sum, and the sum is 195. Let me go here
Mm-hmm.
and press step into. Okay, what has happened? It has written in C1, and then we got an exception. So see, it broke, right? Why it
Yeah.
broke? Let us see in the locals output. Okay. Okay, is it inside a zip, this file? That's why.
Yeah, it's inside a
Ah,
zip.
okay. So we have to unzip it. Okay, so let's do it. Let me go ahead and debug the file. Okay, we have opened it. So now see, what is the benefit of debugging? It will ask and it will give me an error.
Mm-hmm.
See, so UiPath has, see why it has not given me an error. You should close the Excel, because in the Excel application scope, there is a property. Okay, there is a property
Mm-hmm.
which is called visible. This one.
Okay.
So if this is checked, that means you can work while the Excel is open. So this facility is not available with the workbook activities. Okay, so
Okay.
if you will
Okay.
see, my Excel is open, still I'm able to work, right?
Mm.
Because this
Okay.
visible property is checked. So as soon as you disable this checkbox, you won't be able to do it like this. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that
Okay.
is the benefit we get. Next, okay, let's next. Now it would have written in the value in the C2. This is written, right?
Yes.
Now what is the
Yes.
next we wanted to do, right? So if I go to the example, we wanted to increment the counter to 2. So how do I increment?
Yeah.
I just have told UiPath to just go and increment it by 1. So now the counter, as soon as I execute, so if you will see, the counter value is now 1 only, right?
One.
Now if I just step into, now the counter value is 2,
Okay. Okay.
right? Now if I come
Yes.
into the loop, right, what would happen? It
Mm-hmm.
would get the next number for me, right? So let me go ahead and get the next number, second number, sum. So if I go here, so what
Mm.
should I get in the first number? Now it's 335935, and the sum is this. Now where should I write
Yes.
this sum? I should write this sum in C of 2,
C2.
right?
Yeah.
So now my counter variable is 2, C is here, so
Mm-hmm.
now it will create C of 2. And if I create
Okay.
step into, now it will write the sum in C2, right?
Okay.
So it would write the sum in C2. Now the what is the next step? I have to increment the counter. So this will keep continuing till all the items in the Excel are completed. So I will go and click on continue. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so what continue will do is, it will, I will just remove this debugger and continue. Now it will execute for all the stuff, because we have seen, right, it is working for 1. So
Yeah.
the bot is
Mm-hmm.
completed. So now if I go to the Excel,
Mm-hmm.
okay, okay, it has closed the Excel because we are using the workbook activities. Sorry, we have specified here that once the operation is successful, you just auto close and save it. So I will go here, and in the projects, it would be here. And now if I just open, let's check the output once, and it is done.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So now let us
So,
go to the, yeah, tell me.
Mukesh, in case if this
Hmm,
C column is not permanent and if the data may vary
hmm,
till E, F or some other
hmm,
columns,
hmm, hmm.
and as a generic case, if you want to make the result to be printed on the next available cell.
So
Next, I will.
in that case we have to do, we have to count the number of columns. Okay, so if as a human, if I ask you, okay, let us try to, where exactly do you think we should print the sum
D.
as of now? D, right?
D1.
D only, D1, right? So how did you get to D1? So as a human you can understand, right? This is A, this is B, this is C, and this is D, right? So
Yeah.
if you will see in the Excel, how does Excel work? So for Excel everything is A, B,
Mhm.
then we have C, then we have D, right? So
D.
if A is 1, so D would be definitely 4, right? So if I tell you, tell me in numbers where exactly you would write, so you would say I would write in the fourth cell, right? So
Yeah.
what I can do is when I read the data, I can count the number of columns. So what would I
Mhm.
get when I count the number of columns? So it will give me 1, 2, 3, right? So
Okay.
for 3, now the next would be D. So I will just get the number of columns, I will convert
Mhm.
that number of columns to then, this alphabet, and then I will use that alphabet here. So here, if we will give, see, right? So whenever we read the data, we get the read the data and we get the thing in a data table here. This is the data table. Now I
Yeah.
can use a simple, assign activity like this. Okay,
Mhm.
what I will tell UiPath, you give me the integer column count. Let's say I just create a variable, ignore the variable
Mhm.
name. So I will just write input. What is the data table? So the data table is in, I guess, sorry, in
Input table.
input table dot columns. Okay, so if I have to type columns dot count, columns dot count, like this. Right now
Okay.
what would happen, it would give me the columns count. So if I just
Okay.
create this variable here, control K, I will type int count. Okay, and it would say I won't assign because this count and this variable, so count will give me a number and this
Yeah.
variable would be a string, right? So to type anything we have to convert this to string, so I will just type here to string. Okay, and this variable I guess would be able to accommodate it, right? So now we have 3 columns. So now if I just put a debugger here, see what we are telling you, Ipath, you read the Excel and give me the count of columns in this variable. So I will put
Mhm.
a, let's put a debugger here. Now we already have 3 columns, right? So now I should get this value as 3. So I will go here and I will just click on the debug file.
Okay.
Okay, now my int count is 3 because
3.
that third is already available, right? So similarly, if we have data till, let's say here, so you, what you will do, you will just count the number of columns, you will convert that
Okay.
number to a alphabet. So now how do we convert a number to alphabet? You can easily Google in the UiPath forum, you will get a readily available code to convert a number to a alphabet. So the,
Okay.
the thing about, looking for the code is, first you should be able to visualize the logic. So the, like we did here, right, in the notepad, first you should write the
Mhm.
logic, then you should,
Mhm.
visualize that what you wanted to do. Now my only problem is I want to get the alphabet from a number. So you can always search, right, get alphabet from integer, and just write UiPath and write Excel, and there would be some code which is readily available. See, convert
Mhm.
integer to Excel column, see, right?
Okay.
So now this code will give you, you have to just use this code in your, and then you would get A1, B1, C1, and then write itself. You got it?
Yes, got it.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah,
Or
that's it.
you want me to you want me to go through that code which the UiPath has given? Let's go and see that one, right? What exactly UiPath is trying to do. So we can go to your downloads maybe. Let us try. I have also not seen that one. I think it would be here,
Mhm.
right? So
Yes.
what they are doing. So now I think you would be able to understand this logic.
Yeah.
Okay, so you understand this now, right? Excel application
Yeah.
scope. You understand the read range. We are iterating,
Yeah.
and then it is getting the row index, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
what is this row index? So it is telling, okay, we just go here and go to properties. Okay, let's see what exactly this syntax it. Okay, so it is telling, okay, okay, what it is saying. So index of row. So whenever we have a data table, right? So this is a data table, right? So this is a data
Mhm.
table. When the UiPath would read it would read it in this format only. Okay.
Okay.
So once UiPath read it gives a row index to each and every column. So what would be the row index? If I ask you for this, the row index would be one,
Zero.
or sorry, no,
Index
no,
will be zero.
no, row index would be 1. Okay. Sorry, my bad. It would be 0. This would be 1. This would be 2. So this would be 3. And row index is something that is a property of the data table. And what we
Mhm.
are doing here, see what now UiPath is doing. It is telling the input data. Now all
Mhm.
the rows which are available. So as of now, dot rows will give you all these rows. When you say dot
Okay.
rows, it will give you all these rows like this.
Okay.
Okay. Now it is
Okay.
asking, asking here to tell us the index of the row which is iterating, getting iterated. So first time the first row would be getting iterated. So we'll get an index of 0, right? So this will return you 0 and plus 1 will make it 1. You got this thing?
Yes.
Okay,
So
so yeah, tell me.
index of the row will be added with the value
1.
1.
Right. So because it is starting with 0, right? That's why.
Zero. Okay.
Huh.
Okay.
So it is telling, so input dot rows will give you this entire thing. Okay, the dot rows would give you entire thing. Now if I ask you what is the index of 159, you would say 0, right? And what is the
Yeah.
index for 11? The is 4.
4.
4, but we have to keep it 5, so that's why it is just adding 1, because the index start from 0. So that's how it is able to get that number. So now once we have that number, it is just getting the row item. So it what it will do, it will get the row item by using, see this, if I go here, so it says you give, see column index 0, right? So it is giving, getting the value with help of this activity, get row item. So what it is telling, we are telling UiPath to give me the item. So we have seen, right, when we run in the debug mode, this was in column 0 and this was is column 1, right? So
Yeah.
how it is extracting the value, it is extracting the value with the help of get row item 0, and this would be get row item 1. This would be 1, right? So now next it has to just, it will store it in value A, value B, next it is printing in value C, and then the same concept, C plus the row index. So this is what it is doing.
Okay. Okay.
Got it, right?
Yes, Mukesh.
Okay.
Can we open
Yeah,
that C case also, please?
yeah. What is that C case?
Oh,
So these are three different approaches given by UiPath to
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, they have asked one with while the Excel is open,
Uh-huh.
and another two are when the Excel is closed.
Okay. Okay. Hmm. Now you tell me what it is doing.
It
Now
is
I hope
getting
you should understand this sequence. What is this doing?
yeah, it is reading the range. After that, it is getting the count of the number of rows.
Okay, so how many number of rows we have? So let's say when we run this automation, we would get the row count as
10 rows.
10. Take care. Now we have 10.
Yes.
Now what it is doing, how it is printing. So it is reading the Excel, it is getting in 10. So now row count would be 10. Okay. And it is just
Mhm.
using a, so Excel, if I tell you, see what it is doing. Let's just remove this guy. Okay. Assuming that we have to write the sum here, right? So how do we do the sum in Excel? Do you know
Mhm.
Excel a little bit? So I can use equal to, right? I can use the sum, right?
Yeah, A1 is to D1.
And you have to just write, the
Comma.
first number would be A1, and then we have to write comma, and then
Yeah,
I guess
is
this
to
one.
D1.
Right? I think this will work, and then we have to just drag it like this, right? So this would work, right? So what it is doing
Yes.
here, you will see, if I have to write something in a cell, which activity we use? Write cell, right?
Right cell.
So what if I write the cell and I just specify the formula here? So that is a different approach, right? If you will
Mm-hmm.
see, if I just type this formula anywhere else, right? So if I just copy and if I paste this formula here also, it will be able to give me the results, right? I have
Yes.
just,
Yes.
right? So that is uh that is what UiPath is doing here. If you will see here, I think in this one, right? So it is
Mm-hmm.
asking us to give the row of the count. Now, if you will go
Mm-hmm.
here, which is this activity? If you go to the properties, this activity is write cell only. Now you understand why
Mm-hmm.
we are using write cell, right?
Yeah, right, sir. Yes.
And what is the value? It is it is printing the value a1 to b1, because the similarly we printed the value in the first column, right? Next, what we did, we
Okay.
just dragged the formula to the bottom, right? So till till
Yeah.
which till which number I drag the formula? I drag the formula to the number 10. And how do I know there are
10.
only 10 rows? Because I know the count of the rows, right? So
Yeah.
how do you do that in UiPath? You just have to go here in the properties, and you have to just specify this one, right? So
Okay. Okay.
right cell, in the first it will write
Mm-hmm.
a1 to b1, then it will write from where to where I should write. So it is asking to c1 to c10. So if I just go here and I type c1 to c1, c1 to c10, right? So let's
Mm-hmm.
see, if I type c1 colon c10, right? See, this is the
Yeah,
range
that
which is,
range, entire
that
range will be
range is
highlighted.
getting selected, right? So
Yeah.
it just did write cell activity, and then it just used the Excel formula, and then it printed in the entire thing. So now what is happening is, whenever if you copy paste this formula anywhere else, it will be able to get. That is what
Okay.
the
Okay.
third approach may
So
be.
actually,
This is good. Yeah.
do we need to type that input value in between these two double quotations, or without
Wh-
double quotations we need to write
which value I
sum
didn't
of
get?
a1 comma b1?
No, no, this would be double quotes, because this is, see, if you'll just hover here, right? So if you will just
Mhm.
hover, so what is this expecting in the angle bracket? It says string, right? So that's why we
Okay.
have to write in double quotes, because it expects in the value of string, and string is in double quotes. That's why.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mukesh. It's clear
Okay,
now.
it's clear.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mukesh.
Okay, so
It's
can we
clear.
disconnect now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.